sorry. We're sorry. We're sorry. Sorry.
Uh, what's up, guys? Lightwater here. I would like to apologize. I made a mistake on Evoker. Sort of. But then also Blizzard fixed it, which was also really interesting. So it's hard to tell if I made the mistake or if I was correct. So, but, okay. So, some people pointed out in the chat and YouTube, and they were correct, that flow state was, I guess, only affecting yourself. I mean, I wasn't able to test it before they made the recent change. Flow state being the talent where whenever you cast an power ability, you get 10 seconds of like haste on your character, which was the whole thing that I was saying was giving the partial tick. It was giving the partial tick when I was testing on the beta. That much I know for sure. But the issue was I was only testing on myself. And so the theory is that I guess it only actually increased the speed at which HOTS and stuff ticked on your character. But now it doesn't even do that. Or at least from when I just tested, it doesn't appear to be doing that. So from the recent change. So I don't know. It's kind of a weird one. Like I have to take people's word that it wasn't working in the first place. But maybe it was. And regardless, it doesn't matter because now it doesn't work. So, which is a massive blow, by the way, to the infinity healing that was going to be Evoker. It was going to be really bad. It's a good thing they fixed it. It just, sometimes I wonder, like, I don't know, maybe I'm a little conspiratorial, but it just seems like weird timing. Like, I don't know. I put a video about it and then it gets nerfed. I'm like a really small YouTuber, so that's like not probably a thing, but you never know. I mean, I've done a lot of crazy shit in the past. Like, maybe it's a little conceited, but like I would be watching my content if I was Blizzard, because my entire goal is to like sift through every single number and look for mistakes on their part. Like that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for mistakes that Blizzard's gonna make. So, yeah. So let's talk about what that means. Like healing wise, I'm not going. By the way, I'm already moving onwards to priest, and I'm almost done with priest, and they just made a bunch of changes with priest, and I don't even want to talk about that because I'm angry. There's so much more work that I have to do now, and at some point, Blizzard keeps changing things, and then it's like, I don't know. I feel like I'm man trying to make math, and then Blizzard's gone, and they're just laughing. But I'm not going to do the math, guys, so if you guys are looking at the Google Doc, I'm not going to go through and fix all of it. It's just going to be too much time. I'd rather just put this video out, and then the people that are still looking at the Google Doc, sorry. Like, it was immediately going to become outdated the second I wrote it, but it's more so just for, like, my own reasoning, my own, like, records to do this stuff. But, yeah. So the extra little time at the end of flow state is not gonna, because of flow state is not really going to be there for reversion, right? So here's the thing. You still get the initial partial tick based off the 15.6 second duration, because the hot ticks every 2 seconds. So you'll still get one partial there, which is a double chance, but it's each extension afterwards that you won't get it. So I don't know. If you have like 50% crit with a tier and everything, I guess that means that one partial tick will give you an average of like 1 more second, but you're not going to get these exponential infinity hot extension situations where these hots are just constantly at like super low duration, refreshing and getting 2 tries to refresh. Now it only gets to 1 try, which means that we're dealing with essentially, like a low to the second power kind of exponential thing instead of something insane like to the 3rd power, or like, your crit chance to the 3rd power, whatever the math was before. It was insane. I think I showed you guys, like, with 66% chance, you get an average of 9 more extensions, which was obviously 18 seconds added to the hot. Well, that's definitely not going to be the case. So now it's just going to be like 2 or 3 extensions. It's a massive difference. I mean, 50% crit with only the 1 chance is 2 extensions on average, I believe, so 4 seconds. So instead of 9 extensions being 18, it's 4 seconds instead of 18. Or 4 seconds instead of 9 seconds. So it's like a 5-second nerf right off the bat. And then where it was really going to hurt is if we had reached really high crit percentages at the end of the tier. That's where this partial tick kind of fucker is really going to nerf the build. I mean, still though, I mean, the HOT is essentially hard line stuck at ticking every 2 seconds. I wonder if there's some way we can mess with it. Like, it's really susceptible to being messed with. Like, if there's any way that you could desync your haste to extension ratios while it's at 0, the spell is just ripe for fuckery. Like, really, really short miniature haste procs could really fuck with this still, right? Because you want a haste proc the second it extends, but then you don't want the haste around when it extends. Like, it's weird, but maybe there's like, I don't know, like there's, who knows, like maybe there's something you could do, like who knows, I don't know. But with a spell like this, it's ripe. It's just waiting for something to come fuck it up, right? Because of partial ticks. And I don't know, it's just a scary kind of situation because they know what can happen, and I think that's why they made this change, because it was definitely working on your character before. Like, I definitely checked that, but now it doesn't even seem to be working on your character. Speeding up HOTS, that is. So, I mean, flow state still increases cast speed, still reduces cooldowns, and I think still increases your movement speed. It just doesn't do anything else. So, I mean, it's still an HPS increase because reducing your empower ability to cooldowns is pretty nice, but it's nowhere near what I said it was before. So, yeah, and that means that the echo reversion combo is probably about maybe how much weaker? Maybe like 8% weaker at the start, which is a big blow. But what it really would have been is like, you know, at the end of tier 1, it's going to be like a 16 or 20% nerf to reversion echo healing probably, because of no partial tick extensions. So that's where it would have really mattered a lot. And then later on, if for whatever reason they didn't make any changes and you were still allowed to be like stacking crit, like you could get even higher, right? So that's all I really want to say, guys. I'm almost done with Priest. I'll probably finish it late tonight and then upload the video. Actually, I might as well rant, because I'm gonna rant in the Priest video, but I guess I could just go ahead and get it out now. Like, I really don't like the changes they did to Holy Priest with the most recent nerf. Let me see if I can find it. Is this it? Or is this the other one? Let me see. Is it under here? It was listed in the other one, wasn't it? Basically, they aura nerfed it by like 5%, right? And the issue with that is that aura nerfs don't apply to everything. They just apply to the spells. They don't apply to things like Cosmetic Ripple, right? Wherever that button is, somewhere in here. I don't know, it's in here somewhere, I forgot. But there's a lot of things in the talent tree, you know, like when we look at like what makes a priest, I don't want to give like spoilers. Well, like, who cares, right? But I'm currently working on Holy Priest, and there's a lot of things that go into these spells, right? They're not just the spell coefficient, right? Like, here's the spell power coefficient part right here, right? But then there's all these other talents and stuff that go into things. And when you do a 5% blanket on 12 of the class abilities, which, by the way, there's a lot more than 12 class abilities, it's not a 5% nerf to the class. It's probably more like a 2 or 3% nerf. But what it does is it makes all of these numbers, the past 15 hours I've been like spinning on this, they're all wrong. They're just all wrong now. And it wouldn't be that big of an issue if the class was nerfed 5% completely from top to bottom, because I just wouldn't even bother changing them, because all I care about is the relationship of the abilities to the other abilities, right? Whether or not a class does 5% less as a whole versus, you know, it doesn't matter too much at the end of the math, because I could just lower the theoretical overall 6-minute healing by 5%, right? Like I would love to just be able to go to this number and be like -5%, cool, done. But I can't do that because they didn't nerf Cosmic Ripple. They didn't nerf other things. So maybe they did, and I want to like test them all, right? So I'm gonna have to be in the beta testing them all. It's gonna suck. And it's just because I don't like trust them, honestly. You know, like it probably doesn't affect talent points. It's probably an aura nerf that only affects where's it at? Yeah, it's gonna be like this thing right here, right? So, and sometimes things aren't affected on here, and there was some change about Renew too. I think Renew got actually a buff, whereas everything else got a nerf technically. I don't know. Gonna have to look at it. It's super annoying. And if it doesn't change the relationship of the spells to each other, maybe I don't care. But it's just so annoying doing all the work, getting things like perfect to the decimal, doing like a sim, creating what a 6-minute fight is, and then they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna change the aura of these abilities by 5%. So, and I mean, there's all the change of math that I would be doing for flow state, but it's not a big enough nerf to where it really doesn't change the playstyle that I've theorycrafted so far. So I don't really feel inclined to change the math for it, I'll be honest, because even without any changes on Evoker, I mean, you're still gonna play like the same, right? I guess it would be in the sheets, right? Yeah, I mean, you have your empowered abilities. You're pretty much already using those on cooldown. It's the only difference when they nerf echo and reversion is how much do they have to nerf it before you start casting Emerald Blossoms, right? An Emerald Blossom combo is it's literally at half the value when you factor in everything into it, right? So they're gonna have to do a lot more than just nerf flow state to affect echo reversion. I mean, there's just not actually much you do with the remainder of your essences and mana as an evoker besides cast Living Flames, I guess. But Living Flames is, all the way down here as far as efficiency goes, so that's not a thing. You're already casting everything else on cooldown. You can see everything in here either takes a resource that you can't manipulate too much or has a cooldown, right? So people like to think that they have choices when they're actually healing. But if you actually do the math, there's not many choices that you have day to day, right? There's abilities that are pretty much so efficient that you'd be brain dead to not use them on cooldown. And so then your only actual choice as a healer, assuming you're playing correctly and everything's on cooldown, is what do you do when you have spells when there's healing to do, but everything's on cooldown. That's your only time when you actually like succeed as a healer, in my opinion. And there's really just no spells that are not a cooldown for Evoker. Like you have Living Flame, and I mean, that's literally it, right? That's your filler. Like that's all you have. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird to me personally. And if you play the spec properly, you don't even have enough mana to spam a Living Flame more than like once every 30 seconds. So it's kind of cringe in my opinion. I actually think Evoker is a pretty poorly designed class. I think it'll be fun to play, but when you like look at all of its systems and you look at its cooldown based playstyle and its combos, there's really like I don't know, it's not a very loose, fun in the moment making decisions healer. Like the spells aren't close enough. The talents definitely didn't make it close enough. I think the only fun part of the build is when you take stasis and you kind of decide what 3 spells. Playing around stasis is like an interruption to the normal playstyle, and potentially trying to fish for 4 cast bronze spells or something for the instant cast, for the empowered free Emerald Blossom, right? How do you want to go about casting a proper stasis? So, anyways, I'm rambling. Sucks that they nerf flow state. Definitely shouldn't have worked, in my opinion, in the first place. And I need to do a better job making sure that it even did work in the first place. So I'm sorry about that. My bad. Gonna try to not make any mistakes with Priest, but there's just so much numbers, so many changes still happening, and I started early because now there's 7 specs, and they take like 3 or 4 days each because I can only do so much math before my brain starts to melt, and my like my stints usually last like 6 hours, and anything after 6 hours I'm just like, I'm a whole like coffee pot down, my head hurts, I'm like, I'll just do stuff the next day. So maybe I'm getting old, who knows. But yeah, these things take a lot of time, and when they nerf things, it's just it's one of the issues is like when they nerf something by 5%, it's the laziest shit in the world. Like it screams to me that they have zero idea what's wrong with the spec, where its strengths are. They're overworked. They just have a tuning knob and they decide to turn it down a notch. And that's what happens when you nerf the aura-based spells by 5%. I would like an in-depth reason as to why they made this change. Like in League of Legends, they explain why they do nerfs and buffs, and you don't even have to agree with it, but an explanation is really nice, right? Why did Holy Priest receive 5% nerf? What spells were overperforming? What area was the priest overperforming in, right? Why did you decide to do an aura 5% nerf rather than target nerf the spells that are out of control? Spoiler alert, guys. I'm almost done with the math. Holy Priest, if 5% doesn't change anything, you're not going to ever cast Circle of Healing. It's worse than it was last expansion. It's less close this expansion than it was last expansion, and there's many talents to buff it. Like what's going on? The only difference with this expansion is Palm is the most valuable spell in your entire kit. And a blanket nerf is just very strange because I already know what the problem with the class is, and I'm almost hesitant to say it in case it gets nerfed. But the problem with the class is some talents that are very strong, and it will do a lot of healing. But honestly, looking at the numbers of Evoker versus Holy Priest, they're gonna do about the same in raid, honestly. Because once this gets nerfed and this number goes down, honestly, they're about the same. I would say, though, strangely enough, as long as you have the weak ores, you perform the combos correctly, healing on the Evoker is actually going to be easier, which is crazy to say. As long as you can memorize 3 combos, don't break your rules, make the weak ores properly, always follow them, stack crit, you should do the same healing as a Holy Priest, and the Holy Priest is going to have to work their ass off casting something like 90 heals over a 6-minute fight, and that's just heals. They have to spam Palm on cooldown. There's even a little bit of stuff you might have to do, timings with your Palm stacks to proc Apotheosis during the correct moments, Anyways, this video is becoming too long. Just want to say that. So yeah, TLDR, flow state got nerfed. I also may have messed up. Regardless, there's not going to be any partial tick fuckery unless somebody mentions something to me, maybe, because I have to move on to other classes. I can't just keep fishing for stuff. At the end, when I do decide which healer I'm going to play, I will be testing them extensively and poking and prodding every little thing I can to find potentially some fuckery. And who knows, maybe that's Holy Paladin, maybe that's Mistweaver. I don't really see there being any stuff messed up, or Shaman is never exploitable. This Priest I despise how it plays, but maybe there's something. Usually it's classes that have stuff that reset things or take time off things or extend things, or those are the classes that are ripe for, infinity healing. So I'll keep a lookout on those, but yeah. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. Sorry. The dragon got its wings clipped a little bit and I made a mistake. Peace.